Hey everyone, it is Tuesday, December 24th. That's Christmas Eve for those of us that are celebrating. If you're not, also cool. But your gym's probably closed. You're maybe in a different facility. You're not training in the same spot. You might have to make some adjustments this week. Know that that is okay. If this day ends up being a rest day, man, not a big problem. If it's not, it's going to be a 20 to 40 minute zone 2 piece. I've said this before in the program, but if this is your first week, you can take these pieces up to 60 minutes so long as that volume is appropriate for you. And what that means is that if you're going up to 60 minutes, it can't be an overreach where it affects the rest of the week of training. So if you've only ever run 20 minutes straight up or rode 20 minutes straight up or whatever your implement is, going all the way to 60 minutes and tripling that volume is probably going to have a negative effect on your body. So if you want to get up to 60 minutes, increase by a few minutes every other week. So 5 minutes is my favorite. I increase by 5 minutes every 2 weeks until I'm up at 60. I've done this a few times kind of when I go away from training and come back to it. I don't just jump right in, but you can take these zone 2s feasibly up to 60. And if you really are familiar with aerobic training, you can take them up to 90 if you want to. But just make sure that that volume is appropriate, especially if you are running. Because if you're running, there is more impact on the body, right? You're kind of pounding on whether it's a treadmill or the pavement. So just consider that when you go. Wear your heart rate monitor. You can do these without it and still make progress. The goal then would be to keep a conversation going the whole time. You don't have to talk actually, but you should be in a spot where you're able to speak to somebody if you had to, or if you wanted to, right? You should be able to kind of converse and be okay and lax in this. Ideally, we're wearing a heart rate monitor, and ideally it's not just a watch, it is a strap, because that is the most accurate. Your watch will get you there directionally, like you'll be decently close to your zone 2, but it's not totally accurate. So ideal, we're wearing a heart rate monitor. Second best, wearing a watch that can tell us our heart rate. And then the third option would be to do it with nothing and just make sure that this feels easy. Aside from it being long and maybe a little boring, unless you enjoy this, it should feel pretty easy from a exertion standpoint. Mentally, it might be a little bit more difficult because you're doing one thing for a long time. But that's our goal with the zone 2. Zone 2 training just builds our base, right? It doesn't directly affect our ability to run fast. We have to train that fast running if you're doing something like a 5K, say. But what it does is builds the base of that pyramid nice and wide so that when we do layer on harder training on top of it, that training works because we have a base. We've spent some time on our feet. We are aerobic. We can breathe while we move. And then adding on that intensity on top comes from a place where we can actually utilize that fitness that we've created because we have a nice big base. So zone 2 works over a really long time horizon. You do 3 weeks of zone 2, you might feel a little bit more comfortable with it, but you're not affecting a whole lot of change. You do zone 2 over 6 months, a year, you're going to be a different athlete after that. You're going to create some actual differences in your ability to do this type of training, and it'll help your other training. But it is a long-term investment, so just keep that in mind. You can do it on any implement. If you are a runner and that is your thing, ideally we're running. But if you're getting a lot of volume in elsewhere, so maybe you're adding this program on top of something that you're already doing, you don't need to do a massive amount of zone 2. Just keep that in mind. Tomorrow's going to be a rest day. I'll see you guys back here on Thursday.